have to look at my phone.
Welcome, everyone, to Adult Formation. Our topic today is kind of the future of the church. And the future of the church, as you can tell, looking around the room, is not with those of us who are graying and getting older. This is the future of the church, and aren't they beautiful? So I just thought we could start by kind of going down the row and having each person say who they are, where they are right now in school or out of school or whatever, and a little bit of background about your experience in the church, St. Mark's or other churches, or kind of how you got here. So we'll start with Molly.
Hey, my name is Molly. I'm a freshman at Wheaton College. I'm a math major. I am from New Jersey, although I was born in New York City, and so been going to a church in New York City for most of my life. Called All Angels. It's also Episcopal.
And when great story about Molly is that when Xavier King was baptized, his godparents,
Nate and Ariel, excuse me, are from my church.
so she recognized people, but Ariel grew up at St. Mark's, and she was friends with Patty King. They lived in the same neighborhood in Wheaton, and so she was the godmother, and they came to the baptism, and they're like, what are you doing here? They go to the same church in New York City, so that's so funny.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. My name is Emily. I grew up going to church here. I'm now 20.
Can you turn that speaker off?
27, turning 28 this year. I loved going to church here. I have always felt very comfortable here. It's always been a safe space for me. The people here, well, I always kind of growing up struggled with my faith. I always found that my faith was restored and I saw a lot of godliness in the people and the community here. And that kind of reminded me of like, oh, that's kind of how it was for me, you know. When I moved out to DC for school and just life, I tried to kind of figure out where church fell into my life, and it didn't always fall into my life. A lot of my friends weren't necessarily church goers, but I went to the National Cathedral a couple times for evensong. I attended an Anglican church for a couple of times, realized it was not the vibe. And then for a little while, I was attending a church called there's a town in Virginia called Falls Church, and it's one of the oldest Episcopal churches in the country. And I attended the Falls Church for a while, and that was great. And I've been home since last September, and I've been involving myself in other church stuff here while I've been home.
Such as?
Teen night, where I've gotten the opportunity to become very closely with Peter and closer with Kai, stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can congratulate Emily and I because we made it through the lock-in on Friday night. Kai left.
Yeah.
Kai had a rehearsal early in the morning, so she came in the evening, but needed to get real sleep.
Okay.
So Kai.
So yeah, my name's Kai. I'm a junior at Greenville South High School. And I've attended St. Mark's since I was like born. And as Emily said, I also am like very comfortable here. I attend church as often as I can. I'm also the youth representative on the vestry this year, 2025, which I'm very proud of. And I sometimes attend youth nights as often as I can. I'm very busy.
Okay.
My name is Peter. I'm 17 years old. I'm a junior at Glenbard East High School in Lombard. I've always gone to church growing up. I haven't always gone here. I used to go to a church closer in my community called Calvary Episcopal Church. we stopped going there since population of people going there is less and less, so we started going here. And my whole family found this really nice. It's very welcoming. There's a lot of activities for everyone to do. It's a very welcoming space. I've enjoyed coming here ever since.
And another, a cool piece of information about Peter is just about a little less than a month ago, he became an Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
There's an induction ceremony here,
Very cool.
and I came to that, it was great. And then just this past week or so, Kai was inducted into National Honor Society. So we've got a great group of, students here. So I'll go down my questions and we can kind of,
Oh, your church just got out.
well, okay, you know, wow. Okay, so, the first question that I asked them to think about is, what do you think about the church now, how it is now, and what do you envision for the future of the church at large, or St. Mark's, or the wider Christian church? And Ed is cracking up because that's kind of
Kind of a big question.
kind of a big question, right? So who'd like to take a stab at that first?
I will be there.
Okay, Peter.
So I think our church now is amazing. I think it's very welcoming. It does a great job to welcome everyone, regardless of who you are. I think as far as the future of the church as a whole goes, not just St. Mark's, but just in general, I wish people could use the Bible more as a tool and a handbook rather than like an instruction manual telling you specifically what to do. Because I think a lot of people either misinterpret or use the Bible incorrectly. And I think my perspective is that it's not all of it is always accurate. I think for modern times, so I think that would be a thing the church could do to improve.
So you think kind of it's done some damage when people kind of try to interpret and things for kind of, okay. Come on in. Jamie and her daughter. So we have more youth, yay. And we found out the church just got out that so thank you, Peter. That was great. Anybody else wanna chime in?
I mean, I think that our church has definitely grown as a community more. I feel like more and more people have attendance. It's like I was like young, like past 2 years, like I feel like I've seen more and more new people. Like it's a good thing though. Like I love that. Yeah. Everything else is similar.
And Kai has gone on ASP how many times?
Three. Yeah,
Three times. So that's been, I think, a great thing. Are you
Yeah.
gonna be able to go this summer or not?
I'm not going this summer.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a camp counselor.
Yeah, you're so busy, but yeah. Yeah.
I think, as I've kind of come back and forth to church, I have seen new people and familiar faces, and it's great because there is always, I think one of the things that our church has always been great at is being a welcoming place for so many different types of people. And, you know, I was here when we started offering up the 1 o'clock service for Spanish speakers, and that's been a really great opportunity to build community and bridge community. I think Father George has done a really great job of starting different programs and just encouraging more community to come through for so many different reasons. And like I've seen the bridge people here, I've seen people here at 7:30 in the morning, just meeting and communing. It's been a safe space and a great place for people. I think Peter said something really important. I think using Christianity as a guide to, I think, do good in the world, that's extremely important. I think a lot of people often use it as a way to antagonize or justify hatred and things that are not good, and that's not necessarily what we've been taught here, especially. So I think in the grand scheme of things, if more people kind of use Christianity as a guide to do better in this world, do good in this world, and be a more inclusive and open-minded person, I think that's important. So I'll say.
So both you and Peter kind of are mentioning kind of the weaponization of Christianity, that we have witnessed, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just add on to that, so then, like, I have, friends who are non-Christians who feel, yeah, shamed or judged by the church and see the church as an unsafe, like, place. And that is so heartbreaking to me because I know God to be the entirely opposite of that. So yeah, what do I envision for the church? I really hope that churches like St. Mark's, where more people are welcomed and allowed to speak and be part of the church. I really hope that becomes more common and more of what Christians are known for. That
Anybody have any other questions for our panelists about that question?
I have one additional comment.
Okay.
So as I've kind of gotten into my mid to late 20s, I, started dating. And one of the things that I have kind of decided on, or kind of just gone back and forth on, is whether or not I should put that I'm a Christian in my dating profile. Because I think that oftentimes if you put that in a dating profile, especially when I was living in DC, it was a very polarizing thing to put. A lot of people assume that if you put you're Christian on a dating profile, it's the kind of Christian that would weaponize Christianity. And that couldn't have been farther from the truth, considering, like, at my other church and back in Virginia, like, I had 2 gay pastors. Like, it was not at all that way. And there were some people that were like, what kind of Christian are you? Are you more, but then I would get a lot of judgment and just passive no from a lot of people. So, with that, I think it's interesting when you know God and you know a version of Christianity and a version of a church that is not hurtful towards others. It's very interesting to kind of see the perception of that from other people who understand Christianity in a very different way.
And that's really interesting to think about that. Yeah. Well, I think, and I think some of us who are older find ourselves not dating necessarily, but finding that a discomfort in saying we're Christian for the same reason that I don't think I used to feel. I don't know how the rest of you feel. Yeah, Beth.
Well, I have a friend who who I was in service with today, who always puts that in her dating, when she has been looking for someone to date, she always puts that in. It's just really important to her, and she has not had trouble.
Huh.
I stopped being self-conscious about saying that I was a Christian after I became Episcopalian. So that was a major difference. Yeah. So kind of my question for you is similar, is kind of following that train of thought. If we have the concept of diversity, which is, like, in this case, being many traditions within our Christian faith, denominations or perspectives. When it comes to the future of kind of like the Episcopal Church, is there a sense of that? Like, have you ever thought about that? Like, us among many, but specifically among our church itself. I know sometimes it's easy to go with the height as the church either being our local church or they're really big just as Christians, but within our tradition, is that something, is the Episcopalian-ness something that's that you've thought about, or just?
I think if more people were more familiar with the Episcopalian way of things, there would be a far less amount of religious trauma. Growing up in Wheaton, I know a variety of different types of Christian people, and I know that they're not all the same. But I also know that I had friends of mine who were Lutheran or Methodist, and they'd go to certain camps or they'd be around certain people, and there would be a lot of, like, they came away from it with a lot of religious trauma, and it made them less interested in a both a spiritual connection and a faith-based connection. And I think for me, now that I'm older and I look back at my like church experience and my experience in the Episcopal Church especially, I don't have religious trauma. I really look back on my experience here and my experience in faith very like warmly and very happy. Like there's a very joyful attachment to God for me. And I feel like if more people understood like the way that our church goes, or like other church, like even, you know, the cousins of like Methodist, Lutheran, stuff like that, they'd be a little bit more, I think they'd be pleasantly surprised by the way that we approach faith and we approach like our the, you know, the Episcopalian way. I don't know the right word, yeah.
I think there's a book called The Episcopal Way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't really understand what it meant to be Episcopalian. I still don't like completely, but until I actually came here, and especially in adult formation, just like hearing other people's perspectives on like has really me, and just especially the concept of like we've talked about this a lot, of being able to still have faith and like not fully know. Yeah, and just or
It's okay to not have all the answers.
it's okay that we have differing opinions amongst each other. Like,
Yeah.
and no, I think that it can help to the Episcopal Church, and that leaves space for different groups and traditions and backgrounds.
So I have a question for you, Molly, specifically you, because you grew up as an Episcopalian, you always went to the Episcopal Church, right? And you're a student at Wheaton College, which is not where being an Episcopalian is definitely in the minority. Have you experienced differences with other Christian students, or do you feel like it's been good, or how, you know, do you find people like Emily was talking about who are kind of not as open, or?
Yes.
Short answer, right? And is that challenging at all to you?
Yes, I think, especially when I first arrived, just felt, especially with LGBT plus issues, that was just really on my heart, because it felt like I was like one of very few people who said that was okay. And so that was really difficult for me, I think, because like I love my friends, and I know that they're good people, and I know that they care about Christ, but it's always just frustrating that they're not seen.
Yeah. Okay, so my next question is, besides church, do you now, or have you participated or in other Christian organizations, things like Young Life, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, other church groups? And if so, how has that enhanced or changed your spiritual life and perspective? Yeah.
I'll go. I'm not in any Christian specifically related, but in Scouts, I've done a lot of things. I served as chaplain aide of my troop, which meant every year I help form a service for the church where meetings are held. I help coordinate all that. I say grace before all the meals. I say prayers at the outings. And not working with, but like knowing a lot of Scouts from various religions, Catholic, Lutheran. I even have a few friends who are atheists, so that really like provides like a different perspective, knowing that I can be in charge of religious stuff and still have everyone's different perspectives in mind when I'm saying stuff. So I think that's.
How did you get, did you volunteer for that role,
Yeah.
or did you get selected?
Yeah.
So do you enjoy doing that?
I do, yeah.
Cool.
How do you adjust? Is there anything in the words that you use, or is it a mindset that you just want to be, aware and?
I guess I avoid using like Jesus and like
Right.
God in general. I just say like the Holy Spirit or like Father, because it's more encompassing of all religions. And I don't think anyone's gonna get mad at me if I say like, may like God bless us, but I think like just generally being open to everyone's religions and perspectives on.
Any of the rest of you involved in anything like that? Nope. Well, ASP you've done.
Yeah.
And does everybody know what ASP is? So can you tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about that?
so it stands for Appalachian Service Project. So like our church has, I don't know how many years, but I've done it for 3 years, like I said earlier. We basically go somewhere in Appalachia and we help a home, like a family or like a couple that their house is like not the safest place for them to live in. And we basically just like fix or try and fix as much as we can the parts of the houses that like what we've done is we've helped with we've done like we put up siding, we've made sure that their heating and like air conditioning is like actually working. Those are like the main things that we've done. It's just basically to ensure that like as many homes in Appalachia that we can help out, like make sure that it's a safe and secure place for them to live in. And it's like a week-long trip, or I think there's other options, but we usually only do like a week, and we go there every day for the 5 days, and then like the whole day, work on the house as much as we can, just make sure that they can live.
And then you've like what, slept in schools or
Yeah,
churches?
schools or churches, yeah.
Mhm.
And then there's usually other like people, like other churches or other like organizations at the site, and I get to meet people from like I have friends down like Wisconsin and like Michigan that I'm so close with because of ASB.
So kind of after the day of working, you come back and you
Yeah.
kind of have a community
Yeah,
of all of
and
you
it's like
that,
all like yeah.
yeah.
So it's like 3 or 4 like groups, and we're all just like together for the night, and then we go back the next morning to the house, and then that continuous cycle.
If any of you bought flowers, like the ones over here at the flower sale, the money from that sale is to help pay the way for our students to do that. So, yeah. Emily, Molly, any other organizations or not so much?
Currently or in the past or?
Anytime. So we're like, future.
I did, well, the thing that comes to mind is that I did a Bible study in high school, well, started it over Zoom. Because.
COVID.
Yep, COVID, and it started as a girls' Bible study that my church, youth leader was running, and then she got a different job, and was like, I can't do this anymore, but if you guys want to continue, and so we did, and it went on for years, because
Cool.
it was just so much fun, and I just found that really helpful, and yeah, it was a good practice to like in learning how to pray with other people, and just a really good source of.
So my next question to you is, what do you think the church needs to be doing to include more people? Are you able to think of specific things to make the church more welcoming?
I think having like a teen formation, so like just this, but like with teens, I think a lot of them at youth group, it's not as like scripture and Bible focused as maybe I would enjoy it, but I also think like if you're in like a hall with like a bunch of middle school kids, or in high schoolers, I don't think, it's like focusing them all to focus on the Bible is a very easy task. But I think even like after like adult formation, or maybe at a separate time on the weekends, just having teens be able to discuss the Bible and their perspectives on it, I think that'd be a big help.
That's a good idea. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, I know teen night a few years ago we were in the Bible all the time. And now it's a little more relational focused, but somewhere in there's like Bible study I think we used to have a high school Sunday school class that during COVID kind of disappeared, and so maybe that's.
There's no high school.
Yeah.
Right,
That's so sad.
yeah,
Oh, that's really sad.
People who were aged out and then it just didn't get kind of shuffled up. So I don't know if it was a transition question or if it was, the information, awareness type of thing. So, yeah, that's a trick. We see that a lot at the library too, trying to move people from like middle school section, which is one part of the library, into high school and be involved. And sometimes you get a lot of attrition. So, yeah, it is sad and it's a good challenge.
and that's kind of helpful for me to hear too, that
Mhm.
that even in an organization like the library sees
Yeah.
that issue with
Yep.
high school involvement.
Yep.
Mhm. Because you're also busy, right?
That's
High
the
school,
biggest thing.
I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, like, how many activities, Kai, are you in at high school, or you?
Like 3 or 4,
That's
like
it.
4.
Yeah, right. And things like theater are really time consuming, and
Show choir is
show
weird.
choir, yeah. Yeah. So, that's a great idea, Peter, I like hearing that. Any other ideas of how the church can be more inclusive and welcoming? Any of you have ideas?
I was gonna say, I've been to churches, I think maybe here even, where the youth took over the entire service. They did everything, and I think it was a challenge, obviously a challenge for the teacher.
Right.
Sunday school teacher for them, but it was, I don't know how it went, because I wasn't involved. But
Right.
I do.
Yeah, I know we've had some youth Sundays here. Yeah,
I think they even wrote it earlier, because you can change most of that.
yeah. No, I don't know if I was there for that, but yeah. Yeah.
Joyce, I have a question. I'd like to know if you're involved in service projects. Putting your faith into some kind of project where you're helping other people. Are you doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Not
Yeah.
as much as I'd like.
Okay.
I think growing up, I was fortunate enough to be, like, I would help with pads when it was still going on. Like, I would help with the pads meal service at the First Congregational. I think also when you're in high school, and Kai can attest to this because you just went through the National Honor Society induction process. In order to get there, you have to do a lot of community service in order to get on there. So I think when you're involved in, school activities where you're kind of more pursuant of, service projects for other, there's incentive, right? Like you can,
So,
to be on the National Honor
the
Society.
service isn't the end goal,
Right.
it's exactly.
Well, it's not, it's
Kind of.
there is a lot of, there's altruism, but then there's also other reasons why one might do service projects when they're younger. I
Yeah.
think as you get older and you're not necessarily in, there's not like a college National Honor Society or a adult National Honor, like, there's no, you're really.
are pure now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly. But I think that's why churches are great, because you can find other great opportunities to do service projects.
Well, I just remembered, I see Peter working in the kitchen for meals.
Yeah.
Yeah, just being here, I think, is wonderful, and sitting at the table.
When I went to Peter's, Eagle Scout induction
Wow.
ceremony, and you have to have a certain number of badges or whatever. He had like,
21.
pardon me?
You have to have 21.
How many do you have? Like
70 something.
70 something.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he had these medals for having separate things and, like tons of stuff, so he's been doing a lot of service.
Yeah. You think that your faith is one of the motivating factors of serving others? Part of your service?
Yeah, I think, and also, not even just my faith, it's just the right thing to do. I think
Yeah.
it's our duty not just to members of a church to help others and, pay it forward.
Like a no-brainer, huh?
Yeah.
Good to hear.
So any other ideas of how we can involve more people or bring people in or be more welcoming?
One of the things that I think has made my experience at church that much more fulfilling is having relationships with people who are from different generations than myself. I was very lucky in that I had a lot of people who were my age, and that really helped me feel more like a bigger part of the community here. But when I was young, I think I was 8 when this happened. I started doing the Green Lake Weekend with you, and because of participating in the Green Lake Weekend, I had friendships and relationships with people that I would not have had as close of relationships with, like Mrs. Dents, for example. I'm very grateful for you. And like the other day, I was leaving church after the lock-in, and I looked in here and I saw Bob Cardwell. I don't know if any of you all know Bob Cardwell. If you've been going to church here for a while, you know Bob Cardwell and Ann Cardwell. But to me, he's Mr. Bob. And I almost cried, and I probably will. But seeing him, I hadn't seen him in a long time. And we would read together on those weekends. And, like Mrs. Mylander, Sue Mylander, is a really important person. And Mrs. Mancy is an extremely important person in my life. And there's so many people from older generations who have just showed me what goodness looks like and what faith can look like. And relationships with faith can look like no matter what age you get to. And I wish younger people here had more opportunities to interact with older generations, because I think it really makes, I think it can really help make and elevate a church experience for sure.
What is the Green Lake?
Sorry, it was, I think it was offered up as a Lent event, option
So
years
when,
ago.
when Emily's mother Martha was on the vestry
Mhm.
and we needed to raise some money, she had this idea of the Lent event. And her mother is very enterprising. And the Lent event was to raise money, and so people did different things, like auction different things off. And so I think that's what that
Yeah.
was. I wasn't part of that, so you'll have to tell more about that.
Do you know
but,
the Judds by chance?
yeah. No,
They're Jenny
Judd.
Judd.
and
So,
June, her mother.
June and her husband, Bob
Yeah.
Judd? Yeah.
Yeah.
They offered up, as a part of the Lent event, a weekend at their lake house in Green Lake, Wisconsin, which is beautiful. And a bunch of us went, and, it wasn't, after the Lent event kind of ended, we kept going up every weekend. And so it was a lot of.
Not every weekend, every year.
Every year, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
weekend.
yeah. Once a year in the summertime and.
Judds are generous.
Yeah. But it was like Mrs. Dents was there, and the Allens, Seth and Linda Allison would go, and the Lindys, I know they haven't been here in a long time.
Passed away, yeah.
Both of them? Oh. And then Jenny was always there, and my sister and I was 8 when I first started going, and my sister was 5, and it was a lot of like, we were the only kids there. And I think originally they were kind of like great kids. But we were, my mom taught us at a very young age to like talk to people that weren't 5, we learned to talk to adults at a very young age, and so we would talk to everybody else, and it was great. And that we continued to be the youngest people there, we developed very close and meaningful relationships with people that would go on this weekend every year. We'd go to the fish fry and,
Yeah, we had a good time.
yeah, we had a great time. And we'd have that ping pong tournament, and there was all sorts of stuff that we would do to, we just spent a lot of really good quality time together. And because of that, I have a lot of close relationships with people that are outside of just my own age group. And that's really special to me, and has continued to be something that I hold close to me when it comes to my faith and like my experience here especially.
One of the things that we're seeing in studies about long-term involvement with, from people going from about middle school all the way through 20s is just a multiplicity in ways to be involved. It's not necessarily a, hey, how do we do something that feels more youth-ish? Because I can show a lot of other examples that are close to me, actually would avoid the youth, the times when the youth would lead church. Like we avoided that. We wanted the opposite. We wanted to become involved in what the traditions already were. We would go, we didn't like us. So us guys, yeah, we'd all hang out together, but then we would go to the men's group at church, which is, why I'm still doing that here. At the library, it's people, the surge of students that we get are not necessarily for the programs that I would design, but because they were welcome to come use the study carrels and the study rooms. They were welcomed, or they could do what they wanted over there. So, but like I'm saying, it's that connection and allowing the person and inviting them to what is already established, as well as involving them in creation of new things. So less about, and that was a big shift that I had as a young adult librarian, is I had to be less worried about what is this thing that looks cool to an adult that an adult should think that a kid would like, or that a teen would like, because that was a recipe for disaster. So it's kind of a backwards feeling of like the involvement is that openness. Here, you come join us, and then you help change something, that tweak after you get to know. So yeah, it's fascinating.
Thank you. One thing I love about the inclusive feeling of this church in particular is the welcoming that I've seen as the parent of a special needs child. And I was thinking about how, so for my younger daughter really loves this church, and we were just in the service. My husband took her home, and she was giggling all the way through, and I'm very happy that most people don't seem to mind. So my older child, who is sadly too busy to be here today,
I invited her. I invited them to be.
I know.
Panel.
I thank you. They are incredibly busy. It's really, really mind blowing how busy youth are today. But they work with special needs children at the Little Friends School, and do wonders. And I've seen it. I mean, just growing up with their sister has been a huge part of it. But I've seen them really develop some amazing skills working with all kinds of special needs kids. And this church is already very welcoming for that, but if there could be more opportunities for older youth to work with special needs children, like, I don't know what that would look like. I mean, an autistic Sunday school, like autistic children are welcome to Sunday school, but they might need a helper possibly. And Hannah would frankly rather be in the service, so I don't know how that. But I mean, there has been a program called Allies here, but I don't know if anyone's really, if that's really.
I think that was another COVID casualty, wasn't it?
Possibly. I mean,
Because I haven't heard of it since
it
COVID.
happened before COVID, but
And I think Darcy, managed that.
yeah,
And that's her specialty too.
Well,
Yeah,
there are some other people. I
Darcy
think.
and Kate. Kate, I can't pronounce her last name. I've known it forever, but it's like the burger world. So they worked on it together. Darcy, like, doesn't come to church here anymore because she moved out.
She lives in a park,
She
goes
moved out of.
to
of
St.
Park.
Christopher
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, but, I mean, I think for some older youth working with younger, children, for that opportunity to happen would be awesome. Yeah.
I agree, as a person with autism myself, I think definitely like having an environment where like everyone can have a chance to like learn at the same rate. I think that's would be a great idea.
Our church intern, Cass, she is currently, she's just finishing up her master's.
No, she's finishing a bachelor's.
Bachelor's.
Yeah, she took a break. Yeah.
She studied, worship for differing abilities and making like worship more inclusive for, because I think she has learned that like, and this, I guess, makes sense, like the way that we worship and the way that we practice faith is not necessarily, it's not just for the neurotypical. No matter what, you know, abilities that you have, you should be able to worship and, you know, have a faith-based journey. And, I think having her teammate has been really great. Having her in our church community, I think she's gonna try to be more involved in our church community. I think having her skill set is extremely important as we continue to open up our church doors to so many different kinds of people and, people of different neurodivergencies. It's important to be able to have ways to allow them to practice faith as easily as everybody else.
So that's, her name's Cass.
Don't make me pronounce her last name.
That's okay,
It's like
I'll
Kate.
I'll see it written down later, I'll make sure.
It's on the back of the bulletin.
Okay, yes, then I've already got it.
Okay. Okay, so we're running out of time and I have a couple questions left. So I'll make them all one question and you can kind of decide what part of the question you want to answer or not. Do you think the church is headed in the right direction? Why or why not? And why do you continue to participate in church? And as you grow older, do you think involvement in church will be as important to you? Why or why not? I know, lots of questions, right?
I know, I will definitely stay involved here. I'll definitely keep on going to Sunday services. As I grow older and go to college, I will try my best to go here on Sundays, so.
When you say here, you mean St. Mark's?
Yes.
So what if you go to college someplace else?
I'm not planning on it, you know.
Oh, okay. Oh, we're happy.
Yeah, that's something in our favor, that Peter's gonna stick around, okay.
Have any of you thought about ordination?
So the question was, has any of you thought about ordination? And I don't know about the answer to that, but I do think Emily has something she's really thinking about.
I'm very heavily considering being a verger because Hal, you know Hal the verger?
Yeah.
He and I've started to learn more and more about what a verger is and what role they play in the church. And I think that's so cool and really important. And I'm talking to him about potentially becoming a verger because I think that would be a really cool thing to be a part of. But it's still, there needs to be, I need to start actively pursuing that. But that's part of it, I guess, yeah.
You need somebody to like endorse you. As a former Sunday school teacher, I would love. I don't know if you need that kind of advice.
Well, it's nice to hear that, whether or not she needs that, because I'll hear that, yeah.
Okay, so, I've been dealt some really difficult cards in my life, personally and just in my family. My mother has stage 4 cancer. And my dad's health is also bad, but I'm not gonna share why. That being said, I've also had some really bad, like, employment opportunities come my way, and so I have been, like, one of the reasons I'm home is because I've really, like, I've just had a really chaotic last 4 or 5 years or so, and, I needed a break, and so I came home. And I've hit a rough patch, and, in my life, when things went bad, when things got very out of control for me, I always found faith because it was grounding, and it made me feel safer and comfortable. And like being at church, is one of those things where, like, the more I involve myself and the more I kind of practice a faith journey, it's been a really good place for me to kind of, find my footing again and ground myself. And I know that that's not like the greatest answer, because one should not have to just go to find faith in darker times. You should find them in the brighter and the darker times. But I have also found that I have come into brighter times much more with a deeper sense of gratitude and a deeper sense of presence when I am practicing faith church and when I am more active in my church life and in my Christian life. And yeah. But I want to hopefully continue to have it be a part of my life, because I realize what an important facet of my life it has become, and what it has meant to me in those times of my life.
Yeah, for being vulnerable, that's great. Anybody else? Do you see yourself staying around in churches, being involved in church?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's, I feel like it's not even a question for me of whether I would. But I just, I guess that's partly because I've been raised just always going to church. Also, I just, yeah, I find it such an encouraging thing, and always a good reminder that brings me back to it.
I believe you. I've been in church all my life too, but I never had to walk to get there.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, when Molly first came to St. Mark, she was walking from Wheaton College until we realized that she was walking from Wheaton College until we arranged transportation, that she really wanted to be here, and she, starting her first week as a freshman in college, walked from Wheaton College to St. Mark. And she walked in the rain for a women's school.
I get surrounded by Joyce and sometimes me and John sometimes, and yeah.
We try not to make her walk.
When I do it, whatever happens.
But I think that shows such dedication to being in church, yeah. Well, I think that we're out of time and we have to sign off.
We are, I'm sorry. Thank you, though.
So
Thank you,
let's-
everyone.
Thank you, and I'll leave the meeting.